Hello, this is Christos Chresiadis with Aqua Agitators, and today I have the pleasure of hosting a dear friend of mine, Reinhard. Reinhard, hello, greetings from Amsterdam. How are you?
Hey Christos, Happy New Year. I'm great, and you?
Happy New Year. Tired as always, especially during this season. So, how are you doing? And would you mind introducing yourself for the few people that don't know you or not know you already in the water space?
Of course, very happy to do so. Reinhard Huebner, grew up in Hamburg, went to university in Berlin, studying manufacturing logistics, and worked in that field for 8 years, and then got into water during my operations time. Since 2010, I'm with Skion, and at Skion, which is part of the family office of the family, we built over the last 14 years what today is Skion Water. We had no idea what this would become. And by now it's with 5,000 people and 1.5 billion euros in turnover, building water and wastewater treatment plants across the world, both for municipal and industrial customers. I was employee number one, still there. Today as group CEO.
That is great. That's one of the biggest conglomerates worldwide, right? With some pretty important names in your company's list, right?
We acquired a few great companies with Ovivo, Enviro, and PAC, and Elico, and the likes. We were lucky a few times.
So that makes you a big player in the world of water. And how does Skion is positioned today to deal with the commercial challenges ahead for?
I mean, I step back a bit. The interesting thing, or the sad thing, is that climate change manifests itself in the water cycle, right? We either have too much water or too little water, or in the wrong place or in the wrong quality, and the water challenges are increasing and not decreasing. And I'm not even talking about SDG6 goals or stuff like that, which is also where the world is failing, but the basics, even in very wealthy industrialized nations. And so when I started, this was a sector that had ups and downs and sometimes tough years where it was hard to get enough orders to fill your business. And over the last 6-7 years, it has fundamentally changed into a sector where there is more work to be done than capacity to execute such work. And there are technology challenges. There are also governance challenges. If you look at it in the big picture of things, it's a major opportunity in a way that when we started, I didn't see coming, to be honest.
So how do you think the companies should grow in the water space? Should they follow, for example, the trends? PFAS is a good example, right? Do you think that we should focus hard on these commercial trends?
I like some of the thinking behind what Paul O'Callaghan did for his PhD on innovation adoption in the water sector. Not just relevant for innovation, it's relevant for the sector in general. There's different drivers that can create a business. Some of it is regulation driven. If there's a new regulation that everybody has to comply with, have a market. If the regulation disappears or is not enforced, you have no market. And then there's things that are unavoidable. People need safe drinking water coming out of their taps. So if the aging infrastructure falls apart in countries that have enough money, the money will be spent to fix this without regulation, because people, customers expect this, and they then grudgingly also will pay more if that's what it takes. And then again, as I mentioned, there's the impact of climate change, where once people see the impacts, they will also grudgingly maybe accept that more money has to be spent. This is a mix of both. There is concentrations of PFAS where I would say no person in countries where the money is available would accept that that's the drinking water we drink. And then there's very tight regulations like what the US imposed, where I have doubts as to whether it's economically viable and necessary to go to such low limits. So this might be a bit of a hyped up market, and the regulations might be adjusted once people realize what the price is to get to PPV or whatever it is. And then different solutions will be required. But will solutions be required? Absolutely. We see a PFAS situation in many cases also be one where either out of the lawsuits it's being paid by the polluters, or the utilities pay because they just can't have these concentrations in what they pipe to their customers. And also in Germany, we had a major remediation incident where basically a utility found PFAS in their drinking water, and they were totally shocked where this is coming from. And guess what? It was an illegal disposal of sludge from a paper mill on farmland, and this was a recycled paper mill, and somebody took the sludge and disposed it on farmland instead of disposing it off properly and contaminated the entire groundwater there. Well, society has to pay for this, right? Because the companies, of course, bankrupt that did this. And maybe somebody goes to jail. But so there will be money for PFAS, there will be needs for PFAS, and PFAS seems to be something really nasty. But at the moment, it is a bit hype, probably.
And where do you see innovation in all of this ecosystem and for the growth, especially of big organizations like yours?
I mean, at the end, we are a system integrator. So many of the innovations are not product innovations, but process innovations, right? Mm-hmm. Because at the end, in many cases, water treatment is a combination of treatment processes, and each individual process might have been done before, but you have to find the right combination to solve a specific problem. And then it's lab work and piloting, and sometimes it takes several years before you have an economically viable solution to solve a customer's problem, especially when you want to do it in a more sustainable way. Like if you want to convert an old school energy intensive solution to something more intelligent, not in the sense of digital intelligent, but separating streams, trying to avoid certain treatment steps, use less energy and less chemicals and so on. It is real work to develop such processes. So a lot of innovation is process innovation. There is also always still product innovation. It's not our biggest focus, but we do things like at PAC, we have developed an anaerobic reactor with an external settler. A settler is fully 3D printed. So the innovation is both how do we configure a system with this external settler and how do we manufacture this settler. We even developed the 3D printer ourselves. So there is a production innovation, a product innovation, and a process innovation in that, right? We work a lot with the membranes. And one of the areas where we also use this is stormwater treatment, and nobody would have thought about using membranes in stormwater treatment, but the trick can be that with ceramic membranes you can go dry and you can go wet. With polymeric you cannot, and with a membrane, if required, you can achieve log 6 removal, so you have the chance to treat stormwater for discharge without going through a treatment works, but in the network, because you can have decentral discharge points, and you can have a little plant, I mean it's not little, but a plant there that is capable of treating it to a standard where it can be safely discharged into a river, and there's no toilet water flushing out anymore, no other solids, and there's no bacterial contamination. So there's then, this is again a totally different application for an existing product that, in my view, constitutes innovation because it also changes how we deal with stormwater events. And that is one of the big challenges we have with climate change. Long answer, sorry.
It's okay. And I love long answers because I don't have to talk. But all our conversations up to now and from your answers, I guess that the business growth in water is a long-term battle, right? Are there any shortcuts for business development, and do you see companies that are doing them right now? Do you think that they are out there?
I mean, the question is what the market is growing above GDP, so growing in water is more doable than many other industries, especially at the moment where some industries are in a recession and some countries are in a recession, right? Mm-hmm. So we're in a good industry. If you look at the CapEx program for the UK for the next M period, it's 50 to 100% more than previous M period. There will not be enough companies to do this. Mm-hmm. So there is not enough, because it's people, right? I mean, all this is, we're in a people industry. Now, what I think you cannot do, or at least is very, very difficult, is to say, I'm a new entrant or a startup or whatever, and I find a way to hyper fast outgrow competition, get there and so on, because you learn step by step, and there's hard lessons learned. We all have learned hard lessons from projects that didn't work out, where we lost money, right? I mean, I have had projects where our cost was double the turnover we made with that project, because at the end you have to make it work. That's the legal contractual obligation when you're an integrator and give process guarantees, right? It doesn't happen often, but it happens. Now, if you jump from a 2-3 million size to a 20-30 or a 50 to 100 million project size fast, I don't think you know what risks you're taking, and it might go well if you're lucky. It might also be wrong, and then you're bankrupt, or at least you're a restructuring case. And I mean, we've seen companies that went for fast growth and got into real trouble. Some were publicly listed, so it's very well understood because they went into restructurings. One or two went bankrupt, right? I mean, not going to give here names now because I don't want to talk bad about companies, but I mean, everybody knows the ones that were listed and went bankrupt or into deep restructurings. It's not that easy, and at least maybe I'm also too conservative. I rather go step by step, and I mean, we still grow very healthily without going crazy.
Yeah, yeah. See in the last couple of years a rise of potential BOO, BOT, PPP financial projects in the water space. What's your take on the topic?
I mean, conceptually I can understand why customers like this, because then water is a nuisance, right? Let's face it. For many, water and wastewater are a nuisance, and they are happy if somebody else takes care of it. We do this in O&M contracts. We sometimes also do this in BOO, BOT, but at heart we are a technology provider and not a financing company. So we would collaborate with others if it was larger projects with financing required. In some countries, this is easy because counterparty risk can be managed. In other countries, it's also not so easy to manage counterparty risk, because what happens if then your customer closes the factory and you have built an asset there that is not mobile, right? I mean, with mobile units, it's always easy. It's rental and not BOO because there's no build, right? You put a container there, you rent it out. If they don't pay or don't need it anymore, you take it back. But for fixed assets, the counterparty risk needs to be managed, and also that some institutional investors are better at doing. But I see in some countries it's the need for financing. In other places, it's simply to offload this part of the utilities, if you wish. It's not core business for most customers, to somebody who's better equipped in dealing with it. And I think because we run into a situation where talent and knowledge and labor scarcity, experienced labor scarcity, will be a huge driver. This will accelerate because companies where this is not core will not be able to attract and retain the right people, because there's not enough buffer, right? You can't have 2 or 3 experts available just in case. If you run 10, 20 of these, you can have the 2 to 3 experts who help out on all the 10, 20, even if they're not on site all the time. It's just a different way of delivering also the expertise required.
Do you believe that perhaps this can be the personnel issue can be at least partially corrected with outsourcing to consultants?
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, when we have an O&M contract here, is also outsourcing, right? But the people need to come from somewhere, and on the design side, you can work with partners and experts like engineering firms or people who have
Come on. Yeah,
you were gone for a while.
Sorry for that.
No, what do I have to rewind to?
We were talking about the external consultants and the personnel issue in other industry.
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at one of the biggest challenges, operators, shift leaders, and structure above that, there also digitalization can of course help. There will not be the plant that is AI operated and AI does everything, because AI cannot react to unknowns that have never happened before. And the problem is, in plants, you also have unknowns that are first of its kind. And then what does the AI do? You can use digital tools to support operators to do knowledge management. You can use much more video instructions, for example, instead of people don't read handbooks anymore. But if you have a proper video instruction, the University of YouTube equivalent, when your washing machine doesn't work, right? It also works in a plant. And similarly, you can guide troubleshooting by having checklists and process flows of how to deal with certain situations. So digital will help. Then remote monitoring will help, because it also allows you to be preventive rather than reactive. And all these things help, but at the end, you still need to hire and train people.
Hmm.
And if you are this factory that needs 2 or 3 people in their water system, how are you going to hire and especially train them? Because you don't have all the expertise in-house. And then you maybe outsource it to an O&M provider, or you do a service type agreement where they do the operations and level 1, 2, 3 support is provided by somebody else. I think there will be much more of this going forward.
You have been in the head of Skion for quite some time now as a CEO. What is the biggest lesson you have taken out of this experience so far?
It's all about the people, because we are a people business. At the end of the day, we live off the knowledge of our people. Yes, I have some factories in the group. We have all kinds of know-how that is codified. We have some proprietary products, have some fantastic trade secrets in how we manufacture certain things. But at the end, it's about people who come up with this and people who connect the dots and people who design a solution, as I mentioned earlier, because we're a solution provider and the solution doesn't fall off the shelf and it doesn't come out of an algorithm. So it's all about having the right people, and then when you have the right people, also the companies perform. Because if you have the right culture and the right management team, then also you don't need to micromanage. So it's all about people. So my nightmare, or the thing that not nightmare, but the thing that keeps me awake at night is succession planning. I want to build people from within so that they can take over. And we have a retirement wave coming in some of the countries we operate in, where the Americans call this the baby boomers, or now we're already at the late cycle of the baby boomers.
Hmm.
But the amount of super experienced people who also didn't switch company as often, but maybe have been here 15 years, 20 years, the knowledge that retires, we need to transfer as much as possible, but we also need to find ways to work with these people in case we need their knowledge once they are retired. Because again, the people, it's a people business. And so also culture drives a lot of what will work and what doesn't work.
And last question, if I may. And I know you don't have much time in your agenda, so I don't want to take much of it. If you weren't working in water, what would you be doing right now?
I mean, as I said in the beginning, my background is manufacturing logistics. I did a PhD on mathematical optimization of specialty chemicals production networks. So probably I would be either in the automotive industry because I'm German, or in the chemical industry, the board member responsible for manufacturing or something like that. And I enjoy manufacturing. I love manufacturing. Sometimes I miss a proper factory. So when I have the chance at a customer location to visit the factory and see a real factory again, I get excited. But actually, I got into water by accident. I was asked to do a project for a utility in the UK, and I said, infrastructure? No, I'm not doing infrastructure. I'm a manufacturing guy. Then they said, it's London. I said, okay, you pay me London 3 months. I have a good friend there I hadn't seen in 4 years. I go, ended up with Thames Water on their biggest wastewater treatment plant, Beckton. And I'm not going to talk about Thames and Beckton now because Thames is too much in the news anyways. But I fell in love with the water sector in the fallout of that first project at Thames, because the industry is full of nice people who are passionate about what they do. And there's more purpose in being able to tell my kids, this is what we do for your drinking water to be safe. This is what we do with the wastewater you flush down the toilet, and this stuff you shouldn't flush down the toilet, blah, blah, blah. Then coming home and saying, I saved 0.5 cent in manufacturing cost of car part A today. And next morning I come back and say, okay, I saved 0.5% in manufacturing cost of chemical B. It's just a different story. But again, primarily it's the people. I appreciate the people in the water industry a lot.
And we're happy to have you with us. As you said, it's not like we have a lot of people in the sector, and we need every amount of talent that we can retain. Reinhard, thank you very much for taking time out of your agenda today to talk to us. Much
It was good fun.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Have a great new year ahead, and I'll be very interested to see how Skion is doing in the short future.
Yeah, thanks. All the best for you too. And I mean, we'll meet up at many of these conferences for sure.
See you in Amsterdam Aquatech.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
exactly.